intention, and we're going to talk a little bit later about intentions because this is what helped me heal through a lot of stuff, understanding the concept of intentions.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, so there was like that. I had that baggage going into it. Like I already felt like I was insignificant, and I already felt
Yeah.
like I wasn't wanted, and I already felt like I had to always prove myself to be
Yeah.
seen, heard, and felt I had these accolades, but nobody gave a shit. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I kept punching upwards at nothing.
Yeah. That's
And then when you're in a relationship, it's just like, oh, you can either snap or you can just put their stuff at the door and be like, gotta go.
yeah. You got options. But at that age, I mean, who really knows what they need? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I mean, and even if you truly believe are you able to put it out there in a way to where it can be met? You know what I'm
Exactly.
saying? Can
Exactly.
you say, how and at 19 and with a boyfriend,
Hmm.
are you actually able to sit down with him and tell him what you went through as a child, and he can understand, and he can give you the comfort that you need, or the understanding that you may need or be looking for, and you can rely on him to, I mean, where people mind at night, it was a lot different when we was 19
Yeah.
than now. You know what I
Yeah.
mean?
Now I'm like,
So
oof.
and things move so fast right now, you don't know what's left, right, up, or down. The
Yeah.
structure is gone, everything is really messed up. So I would hate to imagine, what I'm saying, my daughter out there, which she is 19, got her own
Mm-hmm.
place, and I feel terrible for her that
Mm-hmm.
that's her situation, because she should be underneath her father, get learning important lessons that only a father can teach. There's certain ways, there's certain things, and there's certain people that you completely have to avoid, but you got to know how to spot them. And
Yeah.
at that age, they're gonna walk right in your front door because you're gonna allow them to, because you wasn't able to spot them. Nobody
Mm-hmm.
taught you. Now, in your situation, it's not your fault that you
Mm-hmm.
ended up with somebody like me at that time.
Ended up with my daddy. So that was a perfect segue to talk about fathers. Okay. What should have happened did not happen. You know what I mean? But it
Yeah,
really speaks to the importance of both parents and both parents' honesty when having children,
yeah,
and passing that information down to them. Because if my dad was there
yeah.
and in his right mind, you know,
That's important.
you know, right, in his right mind in regards to loving his daughter and wanting the best for his daughter as opposed to having an agenda of what a woman versus a man should be, right?
Yeah,
There's
yeah,
two different things. I love my daughter, so I want to make sure she is protected. Let me shield her or let me protect her from or give her the information to protect her from anything else. But if you
yeah,
have a father that is on this is what a woman should be versus this is
yeah,
what a man should be, and
yeah,
because conversations with my dad, it was like your mom did this, your mom did that, whatever. I did
yeah,
this, I did that, and it was like this blame game. So
yeah,
it reinforces the thought that women were kind of like down here, and I can continue to move on. You know what I mean? And that again was
yeah,
reinforcing a relationship. They can easily move on and fall in love with the next person and leave the bag with the
yeah,
woman. So that those are like those bags. Those bags is
yeah,
getting dropped off at my
yeah,
door. You know,
yeah,
and it wasn't no fault to you and I, but here are the opportunities that are coming out of that, right?
yeah,
Because you
yeah,
brought it up at 19, who would have thought that? Ironically, when I was 16, 17, I feel like I only had this relationship one time. There was only one time when I felt like I was in a relationship and the guy accepted me for totally who I was, the fuck up and everything. You know what I'm saying? I was doing some shit. I was you to him.
Oh no, no, don't do me like that, man. Don't do. Did you? Oh man, you are terrible.
No, because I used to feel like this is my karma. Oh my God, the comment on came. But
you are so terrible.
there were people. It's not to say that that teenagers don't have the ability, because there are some who have learned compassion growing up and know how to display that. But we didn't have that. We didn't have the lessons of compassion. It was just like, from my hometown, look, it's a dog eat dog world. It's survival mode. Get it how you live it. You know what I'm saying?
I put my headset on. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you. It's a little lower, but I can hear you.
I want to make sure.
Yeah. So, it's not to take away that there are people who, if you have learned compassion, you do have a better gauge of empathy for the next person.
Yeah, but because we spoke about this when we was talking about, having these conversations, so that you learn who you with, you learn who you dating, instead of you find out later after it's over. But one, we were saying, if you talk to somebody and you can tell them your story, then let me remember I said, if I knew certain things about certain people, I would know, what not to do, what not to say, or
exactly
just you know how to pay more attention to who you with and understand what their triggers are, where their pain is, and you try not to bring that on them again, and you're more, it makes you a stronger person too, because you're able to recognize that and practice that. And I think that would make a relationship much stronger. Because like you said, somebody, a dude, whatever, they so quick to just move on. All right, this ain't working them out.
Yeah.
It's like, well, was there ever really a connection? Did y'all hearts really touch? You know what I'm saying? And
did it?
A lot of times it's like, nah.
Man, it
was just
good,
doing something.
But yeah. So that speaks to like the cycles, right? Because our relationship reflected what I learned later in life, my mother and father's relationship, right?
Yeah.
And in so many ways, not to the T, but it was just like, yeah, dang, you know what I'm saying? And there was a lot of gripe I had against my mom, but I learned in my later years that understanding the relationship between her and my dad, it was like, ooh, gosh, you dealt with some of the stuff I went through.
Maybe worse.
Yeah, in some instances it was, you know what I mean? But our parents didn't talk about that because it wasn't, and they didn't feel like the thing about trauma is, them speaking about it, sometimes they relive it. So they limit the amount of conversations about it. I learned that from my grandmother. Some of those conversations are hard because it takes them back to the traumatized moment and their body reacts to it. So it's definitely difficult. So it's good shit. But I know, like, so we talked about the history. This is where we came from, right? And if anyone knows about our hometown, boy, J-Town was really not the most Leave It to Beaver land ever.
I mean, it's like, for us, we love it and hate it at the same time. You know what I'm saying?
You're fighting outside, you're fighting inside.
We just hate it all.
Yeah, we were. But
one thing that you said though, about our parents, the house that I grew up in, I told you before, it wasn't very affectionate.
Yeah.
There was a lot of yelling, and it wasn't any fights between my mom and stepdad. They didn't. If they did, we didn't know about it.
Right.
But he was a yeller. He was a screamer. He was the what you call, like, the whole alpha thing. This is my house. So that was going on. And I'm older now. I can't necessarily, I won't say he was right or he was wrong.
Right. Because
I don't think he had the tools that he needed. Like today, even with me, we'll talk to our kids. We'll tell them about the experiences that we had.
Right.
Our parents would not so much. Like you said, reliving was one thing, and then some of them, they probably had this idea that what we don't know won't hurt us, but if we do know, was they thinking that it would cause damage by them being transparent with us and letting us know what they've been through?
Right.
I didn't realize how old my mom was when she had me until a few years ago. And
You
when I
didn't
thought
do the
about it,
math that whole time.
man, I ain't never did the math.
Yes.
I ain't never do the math, man. I didn't do I never thought about it. But
Wow.
when I did think about it, and I realized that my mom was like 19 with 3 kids.
Where my
I'm
mama
saying?
was 19 when she had me, and that's 2 children in. So when we
You
talk about
see?
19 and what you know, they were grown.
Look what they was going through, and look what we ain't got nothing on them.
Right. Right. At 19.
At 19. And it's like with my mom, it's like she didn't really share a lot of her stories.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? She'll do it now. We are grown, but as we was growing up, it was so much I didn't know about her. It's like, that's your mom. How could you not know? They didn't talk to us like we talk to ours.
Yeah.
But I think it's important that our kids know what we've been through, because for me, my parents and grandparents and stuff, I saw them as like almost like a not human.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, that's my mama. She's great. She's perfect. Even when I'm mad at her because some stupid stuff I did, she's still perfect.
Yeah.
But that's just not true.
Right.
So, I express to my kids some flaws that I have, some things that there's times where I might say something to one of my kids, and I'm not even yelling, maybe discipline, not yelling. And I will see how it affects them. I will see the tears, and I can feel the pain, but it's one of those things where I have to let them feel that for that moment.
Yeah.
And then, I'll give it some time, and then I'll call them, I'll hug them, kiss them, tell them I love them, and then explain to them why I said what I said, or why what was done was done.
Right.
Because it's important to me that we teach our kids it's okay to say I'm sorry, even as a parent.
Yes, that is definitely beneficial and helpful even to them growing up, because how often did we even get those apologies growing up?
I don't remember once.
Neither
you had one, tell
do
me.
I. Nope. They didn't do that. You know what I mean?
Didn't happen.
But this goes into, like, it's reminding me of the conversation we had about the Black woman, right? So
yeah.
I ain't gonna tell the people the nickname that I have for you, but but I remember a conversation, and I just really felt in my soul, it's like, just look at it from a Black woman's perspective.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And we're telling these stories about our mothers, and sometimes what we feel like we could have heard from them, and if we just knew a piece of their story, maybe would have just helped us a little bit,
Yeah.
But it really talks to how much they have held on to for the sake of, just peace and quiet, or the avoidance of reliving certain things.
Yeah.
So, to the listeners, this particular Black man and I, it was a deep conversation in regards to what Black women in general go through in these relationships. You heard how, there were certain things I didn't know what to ask for at 19. Our mothers at 19 had multiple of us, and we endured so much in these relationships. And I remember my eyes was all misty. It's like all we ever wanted y'all to do. All we really wanted y'all to do was recognize how often we were there with you in the corner, riding with you, trying to make sure you was good. And all we wanted you to do was see us and love us just as much as you love everybody else. Just, can you see us? Do you see? Did you see what we went through? Like, come on. To feel like, because personally, growing up in our hometown, I had instances where my skin color was talked about, my eyes was talked about, my hair, you know what I'm saying? It was all these negatives, and I'm starting to see it now in the programming and TV how women who are lighter, whiter, or ethnic or something else was always better than, you know what I mean? And we grew
Yeah,
up in that. We grew up in
yeah,
that. And I even remember having conversations with, and you didn't know that until we talked about it. It's like the conversations we have with the men in our family telling us that no one's going to accept you if you're this way, if you speak too loud, if you talk too much, or if you're not in the kitchen, or oh, my dad's favorite to give me, like if you have multiple baby daddies, nobody's going to want you.
mm,
You know what I'm saying? So we always heard what no one would want from us.
yeah,
And it puts us in a piece where we are either subservient or dealing with so much without dare us to react, because if we react, then we're crazy, right?
right, right.
Or
If you
psychotic.
react, then you wrong, and now I need to leave you or whatever. You know what I'm saying? She crazy.
Yeah, you know what I'm saying? But what has been forgotten and what I appreciate about our conversations and realities is that, the core of this issue was we never felt safe and vulnerable enough to be able to say what happened.
Yeah,
And we didn't
yeah.
know how to ask from people that's telling us that we have to be this way. How do we ask them to say, hey, can you just accept us for who we are?
Mhm.
Can we get an atta girl every now and then? Can we be appreciated? You know what I'm saying? Can we be told that we look good too? Because a lot of young Black girls are growing up. I posted about mirror work today because it's important for me to speak positive into my body and myself, because all my life it was always picking apart. You're too skinny, or you're getting too
Mm,
big. Oh my gosh, your
mm.
titties ain't as big as, you know what I mean? You got an ass, you know what I'm saying? You
Aha.
got stretch marks. Oh my gosh, you got a belly now. Oh, that was
Mm,
we talked about that one. That mother ever told me, oh, you were
mm.
fine, but you got a belly now. Fuck you. Fuck you and go to hell. You know what I
You better
mean?
have it. You better
It
have
was
something by now.
right. It's just this need to be perfect. And it's
Uh-huh.
like, just imagine that in our mothers. They need to be perfect. And then, but if they could say something, would it have been welcomed and would it have been heard?
Well, that's a good question. And I mean, things do go generation to generation.
Right.
And what I mean is that what kind of men are and or were out there that they
Mm-hmm.
were with that they could have actually asked the question and actually received an actual answer,
Mm-hmm.
or it turned into a real conversation. And what I'm trying to say is that the like we'll talk about that their generation. So
Yeah.
you think about your dad, you think about um his generation of men, the
Mm-hmm.
generation before him, were those men educating their sons on how to recognize what a woman is, what a woman needs? Was anybody teaching the men to listen to the women? You know what I'm saying? So
Yeah.
as a woman, if you're dating somebody who doesn't know how to listen, who doesn't know
Yeah.
how to recognize you, who doesn't understand that you are equal and you are just as valuable, I'm not
Right.
saying it's an excuse. It's really ignorance,
Yeah, it is.
but how do you get there?
It's,
How would a woman get there? You know what I mean? It's tough.
it is. And the bigger question is, how are you going to get there when you've never had the example? Like, it took, and I've dated a couple dudes, you know what I'm saying? But it was they shut up. It was so hard for them. They would say, "Oh, you're really beautiful and sexy," and I couldn't accept it. Like, what?
Mm,
I couldn't accept it without what's the agenda? Like, what do you want?
mm.
You know what I mean? Like,
But
there's
is
got to be
is
something
that
behind
from
that.
is that from most guys? From experience, most of the what you're hearing is something behind it, other than it being genuine.
Because that was my experience. Exactly.
Mm,
Right. So the ones who said that, how many of them took advantage of me? You know what I mean?
mm.
Um, when I was little, I'll admit from. I pray you are enjoying the segments thus far. This was episode 2 of 4. and speaking about the X factor and lessons we have learned in relationships. Does any of this resonate with your life? What kind of conversations do you desire to have to allow yourself the space to release some of the hurt of your pain? Stay tuned as in the next segment we speak more about the familiar transfers into our relationships.